You're listening to a Prairie Punk House Companion right here on the Prairie Punk Press Network. The views expressed by any host or any guest on the Prairie Punk House Companion are the personal views or opinions of the people who express them and do not reflect the views or opinions of anyone else on the show or any company, employer, or any other organization that the individual expressing them has or will affiliate with in the past, present, or future. Hi everybody, you're listening to a Prairie Punk House Companion. We are on episode 24, and this is the last episode of 2024. Even though we're technically recording in the first few days of 2025, ignore that. My name's Neckbone.
Hi, I'm Chair Bear. Hey, why did the doctor give the pony a cough drop?
Why?
Because he was a little hoarse, just like me.
Yeah.
I'm recovering from some sort of illness and my voice is fucked, so
Yeah.
I think Neckbone gave it to me the last time we recorded.
Probably.
Through the internet.
From 500 miles away.
It came through the internet tubes and got me sick.
I probably, since I've been sick for 3 weeks, there's a good chance that I've just had COVID this whole time.
I was notified that I am no longer on furlough. I am completely laid off and have to find a new job.
If anyone has a job for Jer Bear, just email us. Like I'm not even kidding. Like seriously. Like if you have a job for Jer Bear, go to our website www.prairiepunkpress.com, click on our contact and shoot us an email. That would be super helpful.
Hey, here's your job. Or if instead you would just like to give me enough money to live on,
sure, wanted
would be okay as well. If you wanted to fund my lifestyle without having a job, right, I would accept that as well.
Yeah. We do accept donations. We have a Patreon and a coffee page. Yeah. So I am looking forward to writing off everything from last year because, man, oh man, did we sure not make a profit.
How do you write things off? Do you just you just go to the government website and say write off?
Yeah. I think that means you don't have to pay for anything, right? You just write it off.
You just send an email to the government that says write off.
Write off, yeah. Yeah, I think that's how that works.
www.government.gov.
Mm-hmm. Write off.
Write off.
/ write off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's how that works.
Right. Yeah.
No, I've kind of got a head start on the job hunt beforehand because I wasn't feeling terribly optimistic about retaining my job. So I've already got like 15 applications out there. So
that's good. Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic that this will be a good thing, and maybe I'll get a pay raise and a job that I like even more. I will not have insurance as of January 31st or February 1st, I guess. So hopefully I have something before then, so I keep my insurance.
Yeah. Well, aren't you?
My kids will go on my wife's insurance, but
yeah, I was gonna say, aren't you switching to your wife's?
The kids will. I don't think I will, just because it will cost a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't plan on getting hurt.
No.
Getting cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I better knock
please
on
don't.
Some wood.
I don't want our next episode to be like, so we've started a GoFundMe for Jer Bear.
Well, that is the standard of healthcare in the United States, to crowdfund your medical bills. So
right, you start a GoFundMe.
Anything special,
and people get to vote on whether you get to survive with their dollar.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of people who, by the way, also don't have very much money.
Right. It's real democracy. I mean, democratize healthcare. Right. Let the people decide if you can pay your bills or not.
Right. Yeah. People who also don't have any money. There's a lot has happened in the news just even since our last episode with Laszlo.
Yeah, man. It's almost like our society is crumbling.
We haven't talked about, I guess we briefly talked about a few episodes ago, the Luigi Mangione and the United Healthcare stuff. That's already being beaten to death on every single platform, so I'm probably not going to touch that one.
I mean, there's no way around the fact that this is class warfare.
Mm-hmm.
And Luigi Mangione fired one of the first shots of the latest rounds of resistance to the class war that has been waged against working people forever.
Right.
Basically.
And the thing is he's not even, they've tried to paint him as some like leftist, but he's not. He's not a leftist.
Mm. No.
He is somebody who got screwed by the system.
And actually sounds a little bit like he was fighting against his class interest.
Yeah.
Because from his upbringing, sounds like he came from a pretty privileged background.
Very much so.
Maybe not a capitalist, but at least the bourgeois class.
I mean, I think he comes from a family of multimillionaires. So not billionaires exactly, but living very comfortably.
Oh, wait. His family money came from retirement homes and exploiting elderly and workers. So he is part of the capitalist class.
Oh yeah, I actually didn't know that. Wasn't sure where his family's money came from. I know that they're wealthy, Baltimore, wealthy from Baltimore, some Baltimore family.
So that was an act of he's a class traitor.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Unlike police, who are class traitors the opposite way.
The opposite direction, the bad direction. Moving on to somebody who doesn't have those means, who got frustrated over the phone with her health care claims continuing to be denied. Brianna Boston, a Florida woman, mother of two, I think it's mother of two or three, kept having her claims denied. And she said to the person she was on the phone with that, they might be next.
Yeah.
No specific threat. She also doesn't have any firearms. And as far as I know, unless something has changed, she's being held on terrorism charges and quite likely see prison time.
I don't know what happened with that. I know that she did get bonded out. They set her bond amount at $100,000, which is fucking crazy. Yeah, I mean they're going to make an example out of both of them probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If they are terrorism charges, they have no rights.
Right.
There's no fair trial if you're a terrorist.
And if you think that it's good that they're being charged as terrorists, just remember all the people who have survived the school shootings that they've done, who've killed the Colorado shooter who killed the people in the movie theater in that suburb of Denver years ago. He did not face terrorism charges. The school shooters who have survived, who have not been killed by police, did not face any terrorism charges. All these mass shooters have not faced any terrorism charges. Isn't that terrorism? Isn't that what they're doing? We didn't talk about the Young Turks. Didn't know. Did you want to talk about them still or no?
Well, the newest thing on the Young Turks is they did a video the other day blaming immigration for the high cost of housing, because immigrants are coming to the United States. That's pushing up housing costs, apparently, according to the Young Turks, who are the self-branded home of the left, home of progressives. Somebody needs to tell fucking Cenk and Anna that they don't speak for the fucking left anymore.
How did they?
This right-wing pivot is total bullshit.
Right. And according to videos that I've seen of interviews that they've done, they don't feel like they've pivoted to the right.
No, they don't.
But then again, Bill fucking Maher doesn't either. So
the Young Turks have become pro-cop, anti-homeless, transphobic, and pandering to Trump's audience, Trump fans, in an attempt to make up for what I assume to be revenue lost because they have become irrelevant to leftists and progressives because they're so milquetoast and middle of the road, and they don't have anything new to say, and they are basically supporting the status quo at this point, which sucks.
According to them, did you catch how immigrants are driving up home prices exactly? Because I've heard that talking point before, but I've never heard a reason why that would be the case. And I am not an economist, so maybe I need that explained to me, but that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, according to them, because there are more immigrants to take housing away from Americans, that is why there's a shortage of housing. Even though the housing shortage is created scarcity, it's not real scarcity. There's plenty of housing. It's just hoarded by the wealthy.
Right.
And is not attainable to people because it's not profitable to landowners and corporations who have bought up so much housing since the housing crisis in 2008, which, reminder to everyone, Obama bailed out the banks, but not the people who had the victims of the banks. So homeowners were sent out to the street and banks were bailed out. Banks in turn bought up all of those homes from the volatile mortgages they had, and now banks own most of the houses and rent them out and price fix rental amounts nationwide, and now have pushed home ownership to be nearly inattainable, and pushed rent prices so high that oftentimes rent costs more than a mortgage.
Oh, a lot more. Yeah.
But it's more people moving to the United States that is the problem.
Right.
According to the Young Turks.
Yeah. And I can't believe I don't hear this more when I watch people talk on both traditional news and even on like YouTube channels and stuff. When people make that claim that they're getting all these taxpayers, all like things like food stamps and welfare and stuff like that.
Shit like that.
Please keep in mind, and I can't believe people don't ever say this, they're not eligible for any of that stuff.
Right.
They're
can't
not
eligible
get it
for that. You know what they do pay? They pay sales tax.
Yeah.
So they pay for more. They pay more into the system than they take out of the system because they're not eligible to take anything out of the system.
Right.
So when they buy things and pay sales tax, they're putting into the system. They don't get any benefit from it. Kansas no longer pays sales tax on food. As of the 1st, no longer have to pay sales tax for food. That's good.
Yeah, nice.
I saw some people complaining, well, where's the revenue going to come from? Like, well, sales tax in general is pretty regressive and is, more punitive to poor folks because they have less disposable income to put towards sales tax in general. So, I don't know, tax the wealthy more.
In this episode, we're going to talk a lot about how the kids aren't all right, and I'm really disappointed to find out that is actually the name of an Offspring song, because I Googled it earlier. That was not intentional. It was supposed to be a reference to actually the Who song, The Kids Are All Right, but they're not, so we changed it to Aren't. And
isn't there a NoFX song too?
No, I think it's
What's
just
the matter
Offspring.
with the kids today?
Oh, yeah. It's called something. Yeah, what's the matter with the kids today? It's talking about how kids are more conservative. Polite, yeah.
But that was what, 97?
Yeah, 97, 98.
96?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's even worse now.
I know, right? We had no idea how bad it would get. But, data shows, especially according to the last election cycle, where a lot of younger people are now voting, that a lot of young adults, I should say, the Gen Zers are skewing more conservative. Millennials got a lot of shit for a long time, but millennials are actually statistically becoming less and less conservative. They're the least conservative living generation statistically. Mm-hmm. And right now, Gen X is battling the boomers to be the most conservative living generation. So that is really fucking disappointing, because I don't know if you remember the 90s. I'm gonna have my old man yelling at cloud moment here. I'm gonna tie an onion to my belt because it's the style at the time.
It was the style at the time.
But in the 90s, even though, we weren't as politically, as well versed politically as we are now. We didn't really understand a lot of the theory and stuff like that. But I remember we were pretty anti-capitalist.
Oh yeah, I have been for the majority of my life. I've been anti-capitalist,
right? So. And we didn't like the status quo. And I know I've seen this argument online so much about how conservative is the new punk rock, because the status quo is being accepting, so being not accepting is the new punk. That's such bullshit. What a bunch of
quick question.
Yeah.
Quick question. Which side of the political spectrum is in charge of all the branches of the government?
That would be conservatives, specifically the Republican Party currently. Yeah.
Well, even Democrats are conservatives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As far as the left-right access goes. But so how then is being a conservative going against the status quo again? Just curious.
The thing about punk is that being punk meant going against hierarchy, going against people who are in these positions above you just because people think they're supposed to be, based on nothing. There being this whole hierarchical structure of these people are your betters because we said they are. So how would how would a political ideology that not only accepts hierarchy but embraces it actively, how could that ever be punk? How could it? It couldn't. It's impossible.
Well, I would point you to the band that started all punk rock, the kings of punk rock, the Sex Pistols. When they wrote their song Anarchy in the UK, you see that wasn't really about anarchy, because John Lydon literally said, I don't give a fuck about anarchy. It just sounded good.
Right.
The idea of anarchy, according to the Sex Pistols, is chaos.
Right.
But there's an actual political ideology, political theory behind anarchy, which is no unjust hierarchy, which means any leadership position in a system of government must be justified. It's not chaos. It's horizontalism.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so the idea of just being anti-establishment misses the entire point of what punk rock is and what leftism is and what anarchy is.
Right.
It's not chaos. It's not disorder. It's very ordered because it has to be, because there's no hierarchies. You have to trust one another to maintain order on a personal level. There's no authority but yourself. Our
new band, Coital Weaponry, understands that better than Sex Pistols. So
yes,
yeah, better name too.
What about buggering Blunderbuss?
Buckering Blunderbuss. That's great too. That could be the band that tours with us. Also, don't Google coital weaponry.
Yeah. You can go ahead and Google buggering blunderbuss. That probably offers some interesting results.
Also, now that Google's first search result is some dumb AI shit every time you search anything.
Oh, yeah. Gemini?
Go ahead and Google coital weaponry, and the AI answer is pretty fucking hilarious if it comes up with the same one it did for me. Yeah.
Are you discouraging or encouraging?
I guess I'm encouraging. I think I remember the first sentence said, "Coital weaponry is sexually selected weapons."
Okay.
Look, I don't know what the fuck that means. How do you sexually select weapons? Is that a thing you can do? I mean, this is the same AI that claimed that the term cockroach comes from the fact that the first ones came out of men's penises. So they're called cockroaches.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gemini.
Yeah. We're not going to be in a Terminator 2 situation anytime soon. I wouldn't worry about that. Not too worried about Skynet right
now. Back to Gen X. You have to remember though that Gen X drank out of water hoses, Nick. Right. How can that be? Because they drank out of water hose. I drank out of a water hose.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We all did.
Just look at me.
Yeah.
I'm tough.
Yeah.
Because water hoses.
Yeah. Well, and we all know that millennials destroyed the fill-in-the-blank industry. The funniest one I remember reading, the funniest like bullshit millennials destroyed this article I remember reading was the millennials are destroying the mayonnaise industry. Yeah, millennials, good job. You were going even further away from conservatism, and it could be because currently baby boomers own the most in the country. Baby boomers own about 60 to 65% of all wealth in the country right now. And do you want to take a guess how much of the wealth millennials own?
15%.
Oh, 10%, approximately.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so less than that. So I think if I couldn't afford to own a home and I had done all the stuff that the older generations told me to do to be successful, and I still couldn't afford a home, and I was still living paycheck to paycheck, and I still had to have 6 fucking roommates, well into my 30s and 40s. Don't forget, people keep thinking millennials are kids. Millennials aren't fucking kids. Millennials are entering their 40s now.
40s, yeah.
They're not fucking children. So stop telling millennials to you just got to keep grinding and working. No, they're starting to get close to middle fucking age. They should have more than they do now.
What if they would just stop buying their coffee and
avocado toast? Right?
They could afford to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
Have millennials even tried to save $100,000?
Right, you just do it. Yeah.
You just have to save $100,000. I mean, I already mentioned Obama bailing out the banks. This is what millennials lived through. They watched their parents lose their life savings.
Yeah.
And they watched themselves not be able to afford to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're talking about it, decline in birth rate. People are quite upset about white people not having babies anymore. And I would say a large part of that is probably due to economic strife, and people can't afford to have kids because
absolutely
you have to. I mean, unless you're extremely privileged, both parents are going to have to work.
Right.
And daycare is more than your mortgage.
Right.
So how do you justify that on top of the shit conditions?
So
of the world? Yeah.
Right now, even though I am a Gen Xer, I'm not a millennial. I had my son later in life. So I have a young son who is still in daycare. And so I am paying for daycare. Daycare costs me approximately $2,000 a month for him to go to daycare. $2,000 a month.
That's almost twice my mortgage.
Yeah.
Not quite, but close.
Yeah. That's almost what my mortgage is, and I live in Chicago.
Right.
So it is
we're
fucking really bonkers.
We're just lucky we have mortgages at this
point.
To be honest.
Right, yeah. We're some of the last people who are going to be able to afford to actually own our homes. So I'm not going to give exact figures here, but I bought my house for, a reasonable amount of money in Chicago, and pretty nice neighborhood. And I have had banks and realtors call me offering to buy my house for twice as much as I paid for it. And
yeah, but the thing is, that sounds good, but then you're going to have to find another house, and it's going to cost that much to move into it or more.
Right.
Because prices have increased so much in the last even 5 years. I mean,
right. Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Right. So even if we did sell, even the amount of money that we would make in profit wouldn't be enough. I mean, we wouldn't be able to stay in Chicago. Like if we moved to like a cheaper metro area, like sure, we could probably like put down a pretty hefty down payment on a house in like the Quad Cities or Rockford or somewhere like that. Sure.
Kansas City or something.
Yeah. Wichita. So Topeka, cheaper market than ours. But here's the problem that a lot of people run into, and I realize I'm trying to explain this stuff to baby boomers who are not our audience anyway. But to those of us who listen to us, if you could explain to your boomer family all this stuff, that would just be great. But people have to go where the jobs are. So, and I've heard this argument, and my parents make this argument all the time. My parents bemoan about how people aren't having kids anymore. Well, there's no public daycare option, and everybody's a 2-income household now. That we can't get by without being a 2-income household, pretty much, for most people. And so there's no public daycare option. Everybody's, both mom and dad are working, or dad and dad, mom and mom, who both parents. If there's 2 parents, they're both working guaranteed. And so you can't have a stay-at-home parent anymore. But then you got to pay for the super expensive daycare, and it's the thing. No fucking wonder people aren't having kids. People can't afford to have kids. We get shit paternity leave, shit maternity leave.
And grocery prices have skyrocketed.
Yeah, baby formula. I mean, had to buy it recently enough that I remember how expensive it was even 4 years ago, and it's gone way up in price since then. So, I mean, just simple diapers, shit like that. That shit is so fucking expensive. It's no wonder people aren't having kids. And my parents bemoan this, like, people have pets now instead of kids. You know what? Pets don't cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you want people to have kids, give them a public daycare option. Pay people well enough to where maybe one parent can stay home if they want to.
Parental leave.
Yeah, parental leave.
For longer than what? 6 weeks or something.
Housing prices have to be affordable. Food prices have to be affordable. Supplies you need for your baby have to be fucking affordable. This is how you get people to have more kids. The only reason a lot of younger people aren't having kids, or why a lot of them aren't, maybe not all of them, because it is a personal choice, but the reason why a lot of them aren't is because it's too fucking expensive. I know people who've told me that. People I know who don't have kids have straight up told me, I can't afford to have a kid, so I'm probably just not going to have any. Shrug. Like, what do you expect people to do?
That explains the millennial shift,
right,
away from conservatism. But interestingly, particularly young men are shifting to the right.
Yes, in the Gen Z specifically generation.
Not as much women. Here's the biggest thing that I want to say about that is after the 2016 election, after Hillary Clinton shit all over Bernie Sanders supporters and propped up this narrative of Bernie bros being mean to her and being misogynist and being shitty. A lot of his supporters were younger folks, and when the Democratic Party shit on them and called them misogynist and basically turned them away, they looked for populism elsewhere, and they found it on the conservative side. They found a whole bunch of chuds that were willing to tell them lies
Yeah.
to make them feel better about how shitty the world is right now.
Well, and people want to belong. People want a home. People also want easy answers. People want to know, okay, well, why can't I get ahead? Why can't I afford a house? Why don't I have any money? How come I can't get the job that I want? How come dating is so hard? Why all this shit that concerns young people? It's easy to turn and tempting to turn toward the easiest answer, but it may not be the correct answer. And I remember I went to a Bernie Sanders rally in 2020 in downtown Chicago, and expecting this was before Joe Biden was selected, or at least before we knew he was selected. But yeah, this was when Bernie still had a chance of getting the nomination in 2020, and I remember there were MAGA people outside of the Bernie Sanders rally, and they weren't there yelling at you. They were there being really friendly.
Yep.
They were trying to get your name, trying to get your number, trying to be like, dude, we get it. Look, the Democratic establishment is not listening to you. Bernie Sanders is not going to get the nomination, and he's not going to get the nomination because the Democrats will never let that happen. Why don't you come talk to us? They were out there, I am not kidding, actively recruiting people to come over to their side. And I'm sure it was happening in more places than just Chicago, because they knew that the young Democrats, I mean, fortunately I was old enough already by 2020 to see right through that shit. But a lot of younger people may not have been. A lot of younger people may have been thinking, well, I'm not being listened to. My concerns are not being addressed. My candidate doesn't even have a fucking chance.
Right.
It's already been pre-decided that they're not going to let him get the nomination. It's not going to happen. I think wasn't it West Virginia, where in the Democratic primary, every single county, or most of them, voted for Bernie Sanders to be the Democratic nominee from West Virginia. And the Democratic delegates got up and announced that it would be Joe Biden anyway.
Yeah.
Ignoring the fact that every single county in the Democratic primary had voted for Bernie Sanders overwhelmingly. So it's no wonder people get pretty disenfranchised by that.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't they? Their vote doesn't matter, and it hasn't mattered for ever, maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Electoral College disenfranchises people. Superdelegates disenfranchises Democrats.
Yeah.
And people that actually give a shit about democracy.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party and the DNC was, decided in the courts that it was a corporation and it was not beholden to voters, so they can literally nominate whoever the fuck they want. And they have.
Yeah.
In the last at least 2 elections.
Yeah.
With Clinton and then Biden. I mean,
yeah.
Eventually both of those candidates did wind up getting the most delegates, but it's because the DNC and the DCCC had their thumb on the scale, and the media was complicit in that. So it's difficult to not be disenfranchised in those situations, and if one party is blatantly doing that and seems corrupt, if you're not politically savvy, then you might look other places for a home. And sometimes not candidates so much, but quote unquote content creators and influencers will provide that sense of belonging with shitty fitness takes and shitty advice on women.
Which, my God. Yeah.
Seems like they're talking to young men and coming to them where they are and giving them answers and solutions, which to the people making these statements is probably just a grift.
Absolutely.
To make money, but it's it has detrimental effects on people.
Right.
You know, we're a very individualist society and have been. I mean, that's part of I mean, it's inherent in the quote unquote American dream is being an individualist, being self-sufficient, and you know, that's part of what our country is about.
Yeah.
So, you know, rugged individualism is ingrained in American society. I don't particularly feel that way. I'm not fond of it. I think that we are better when we work together.
And that's demonstrably true.
Yeah. But, you know, it's part of who we are, and some people take advantage of those instincts, and you know, offer dubious and heinous answers to some of these questions of why can't I afford to buy a house? Why can't I have a family? Why can't I afford groceries?
And a lot of these grifters, they just adopt the whatever right-wing talking points there are. Well, you know, because there aren't enough white children, because immigrants are moving in, because of feminism. That's why you don't have a girlfriend. That's why you can't get a wife, because
the great replacement.
The great replacement, or because like you know, a lot of these guys like Fresh and Fit and fucking Sneeko and fucking Andrew Tate. These fucking, I mean, they're fucking grifters, man. The whole they prey on a lot of young men who identify as MGTOW or incel or something like that, because they've just been given just tons of bad advice for years. Just so much bad advice and bad takes on things, you know. And after a while, you got to wonder, like, okay, I've been watching fucking, you know, Sneeko tell me stuff for years, and my life's not getting any better. Maybe his advice is fucking bad. You know, I mean, why do they think their life is not? What's that?
I don't know shit about Sneeko, or really. I mean, I know very little about Andrew Tate.
Yeah, but Fresh and Fit.
Again, not familiar, but
well, and you know, a lot of conservatism is trying to now brand itself as cool with the whole, like, you know, Elon Musk trying to call himself like the real life Tony Stark. And, you know, the trad wife movement is most popular amongst Gen Z women, even though
only for a little while, only until they realize it's untenable.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's probably just as many videos of ex-trad wives talking about how much it sucks to be a trad wife as there are trad wife videos. It's selling an aesthetic. It's selling a fake aesthetic of something that never really fucking existed. This 1950s, you know, clean, prosperous America.
You know what else the 50s had? They had a 90% marginal tax rate.
Oh yeah.
So anybody making over, I think at the time it was like $400,000.
Right.
Was paying 90% of that income over $400,000 in taxes.
Yeah.
Not 90% of all of their money.
Yeah.
But 90% of their income over $400,000 or something like that was taxed. That's why we had the highway system we had that was created in the 50s. That's why we had social safety nets. That's why we had a booming economy.
That's why the interstates are free, is because they were built under a socialist structure.
So yeah, I mean, I hear conservatives pining over the 1950s, and they always fail to mention that the marginal tax rate was 90%.
Right.
On the highest earners.
And
so,
you know,
as a country, we had money to do that. And also, I mean, it was during the Cold War, sure.
Yeah.
That was before the military-industrial complex became big business. So we weren't funding wars all the time, even the Cold War. I mean, there was a lot of military spending back then, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. But we were still investing in infrastructure and in jobs and in people.
And
even
take
if
a
it
look at
was
housing
still
prices.
Very racist.
Take a look at housing prices, and even
And car
adjusted
prices.
for today. Even if you adjust it to today's dollars,
Yeah,
it's
you could get a tract
way-
house for like $3,000.
Yeah, right,
A white family could.
right,
You could
right.
get-
Yeah,
you
there
could
was
get,
still
you get a tract home for like $3,000.
right. Yeah, there was still an absolute fuck ton of racism and shit. So it really was only prosperous
redlining.
for a select group of people.
Right. Redlining was horrible and kept minorities from home ownership and from good jobs and things like that. But,
Right.
there was still some investment in people at that
Yeah.
point. There's no investment in people anymore.
No, not at all. But yeah, there are, and it's funny because we are, in the middle of doing a podcast, and we're about to like start a YouTube channel and all that, and while we're at the same time complaining about YouTubers turning people conservative. But but yeah, like I think that a lot of the Gen Z people who grew up with YouTube, I mean, it was in an era of completely, I mean, people could post anything they fucking wanted on YouTube and call themselves an expert. That's why you get, like the like we said, like the Andrew Tates and the Fresh and Fit and the people who like are like, the crypto bros and tech bros and stuff like that, who, take advantage of young men specifically, young people who are looking for a place to belong. And I mean, I have not seen, I can't believe how much young men talk about this whole like alpha male, beta male shit too.
Which the progenitor of that idea in wolves realized that it was a mistake, and there are no such thing as alpha males.
Right. It was Dr. Robert Greene was the guy who wrote that book originally, and he debunked his own book on purpose,
as scientists do when they get new information.
Because that's how science works. So when people say trust the science, what they actually are saying is trust the scientific method.
Yeah.
Not a dogmatic set of beliefs. But the whole, I see this shit is like, I mean, we can't get rid of it now, but the whole like alpha, beta, I mean, it's astrology for men. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like you may as well say that Mercury's in retrograde. I mean, which, by the way, if you don't know, that's also bullshit. Planets don't start going backwards randomly. That's not how that works. So
since when? What is this? No,
it's also not why your partner broke up with you, because a planet was going backwards. That's sorry. Hate to break it to you. I hate to be I hate that you had to hear this from me.
The people preying on young men.
Yeah.
Almost specifically young men. Remind me a lot of the neo-Nazi recruiters that hung outside of schools and shows saying, are you pissed off about this? Here, we understand your problems. Like the guy that tried to recruit you.
Yeah, right.
It's exactly the same. It's just on the internet now. And
right.
They reach a much larger audience because they're able to.
Right.
But
yeah.
And I'm not even saying all of them are white nationalists, even though a lot of them are. But they are still preying on disenfranchised youth.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous and it's sad. Luckily, I think there's a handful of people on the left that are trying to counterbalance that. I'm not a huge fan, but Hasanabi does a pretty good job of reaching out and doing the same thing.
Yeah.
From the left, I mean, he's the socialist himbo or some shit.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, Cenk Uygur's nephew.
Right. He talks to Gen. He's not a Gen Z. He's a millennial himself, but he talks to Gen Z. He talks to young people. He connects with the Gen Z men, I think specifically. but Gen Z in general. And even if like his style isn't quite for me, I don't think I'm his target demographic anyway, but I can still appreciate that he gets young people interested in things, topics and politics that are important, and helps give them a different perspective than a lot of these alt-right grifters give them. So I can appreciate that he does that.
That motherfucker works hard at what he does. I'm not saying it's hard work, but he works hard at doing it. I mean, streaming for 12 to 14 hours a day is a fucking lot. Fuck that shit. I couldn't fucking do it.
It sounds exhausting.
Sounds like a fucking nightmare. But
we record for 3 hours every other week, and I'm tired.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Of course, we also have other jobs too. So.
Well, you do.
Well, I do. You did. You did until really recently. Yeah. So Hassan, if you want to fund us with all your money, so that we don't have to have regular jobs,
I'll fight Jank too. Give me money, I'll get in a fist fight with Jank.
He's a big guy. I don't know if he's tall though. Yeah. Is he tall?
I have no idea. I don't care. Do you remember when he said he would fight Joe Rogan?
Oh yeah.
In the ring, in the octagon.
Yeah. I mean, pretty soon he'll be on Joe Rogan, so I don't know. Yeah. If it hasn't already happened,
like on top of him, in an amorous way.
Yeah, maybe, and also on his show as well, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I do think that Gen Z, as they get older, will probably start distancing themselves. It'll be slow, but I think they will start seeing through the grift that is conservatism, because if millennials only own 10% of the wealth in our country, how much do you think they're going to fucking own? It's going to be less than that.
Yeah.
They're going to become disenfranchised pretty quickly, and they're already starting to not buy the lies that conservatives are feeding them. I mean, Ben Shapiro's audience turned on him when he was talking shit on Luigi.
That's a function of their division of the country, because they're not dividing it. They're not attempting to divide us in where the real divide is. When you divide poor people on race lines, on gender lines, on any of that other meaningless bullshit, it's going to come back, because at the end of the day, even when you demonize those other people, economically, it's not getting any better for them.
Right. Yeah.
It's fucking class war, like I said. I mean, that's what it is. And, capital wants to divide the lower class so that we fight amongst each other rather than fighting them. And that's what these mouthpieces are doing. They're doing the work of capital and dividing, the people. And, we really need to stand together and fight the real power, which isn't immigrants, which isn't women, which isn't gay people, which isn't trans people, which isn't brown people. It's fucking rich people.
Every time.
It's the powerful.
Yeah. Follow the money. It's billionaires paying multimillionaires to feed you lies. And it's starting to become so apparent. Follow the money. I mean, follow the money every time. If, and you can also recognize when, people who were formerly on the left are doing a grift, because the first thing they'll do when they want to start making more money is make a video called "Why I Left the Left." So anytime you see something,
TYT's doing, that's exactly what TYT's doing.
Right. Yeah.
Follow
the money.
Some weird right-wing apology tour right now.
Yeah.
It's fucking bananas.
Right. If we actually wanted to make money doing this, we'd be recording a video about why we left the left. But I guess we're content with never making money on this podcast.
I can't do it, man. I just can't.
I can't do it either.
I've only ever been good at one thing, and that's being who I am, and I can't fucking fake it.
And there are a lot of good content creators out there. Most of the good ones they still have, they're just regular jobs, and they do this for either no money or damn near no money.
Right.
I guess you get a small amount of money from YouTube if you have a certain amount of subscribers, just from general ads that play that you have no control over, but it's not much. You don't get much.
Right.
I think Gen Z is going to start distancing itself from conservatism, because it just, even if nothing else, I mean, being a conservative is fucking exhausting. I know conservatives. I know a lot of conservatives. I mean, we're from fucking Kansas. We grew up around conservatives. And my entire family is conservative. When you're conservative, you have to fit the role that they have decided you need to be in 100% of the time. You don't get to be yourself. That gets fucking exhausting. And I don't think young people are going to put up with that for very long. I just don't. As they get older and as they realize they have less and less and how much it's expected of them, even the guys, even the men who think they want this trad wife and they think they want some subservient woman to do everything they want, it's not fulfilling, because even they have to be on all the time. I mean, you've seen that TikTok from that conservative guy who lies about being a liberal so he can date liberal women. I mean, that's been going around. I don't know if you've seen that.
That's
okay.
funny.
There's this conservative guy,
What a
and
dumbass.
even he says, dating conservative women sucks. He's a Trump supporting conservative, but he's like, I like dating liberal women because conservative women, all they're asking you is, why aren't you out there earning? Why aren't you working? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? When I'm around liberal women, they let me be myself. I can just relax and just be myself around them. And it's like, well, you're starting to fucking get it. You're starting to.
Right.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you want to be around people who just let you be yourself? That's one of the things that I've always loved about the punk community. You go to a fucking punk show and you'll see, a clean-cut 19-year-old dude in a button-down shirt in the fucking pit getting his ass kicked or kicking someone's ass, maybe both at the same time. And then at that same fucking show, there's going to be a 65-year-old woman in fucking bondage gear. Everybody shows up just being themselves. In conservative circles, you can't. You can't be whoever you want. It's not allowed. You have to fit a mold that they've already decided for you. And that's going to lose its appeal pretty fucking quickly to young people.
The thing about conservative politics that drives me nuts is that the right can unify behind something and they can stick to a message, and it shows, well, it appears to show strength, but it's only strength from the leaders, and everybody else is falling in line. People complain about leftist infighting and disunity between leftists, and you've got fights between socialists and Marxists and tankies and anarchists and shit. But while that can make it hard to focus on specific issues, it also keeps people thinking and keep people working towards better and more robust ideas and arguments against conservative ideas.
Yeah.
And conservative thought. I mean, but I also wish that we could unify with one another long enough to get some fucking wins, because it's been a long time since the left had any fucking wins. The left has no power,
right?
In electoral politics. The 2016 primary, I definitely felt for the first time in my life that I was voting for someone.
Yeah.
I wasn't voting against Republicans or against, I was voting against a shitty Democrat, but I was also voting for Bernie Sanders because he offered enough that I was like, yeah, I can vote for this person. I'm not voting. I'm not just voting against Clinton. I'm voting for Bernie Sanders.
I will be shocked if we ever see like a genuine left-wing candidate in our lifetime, even.
Oh yeah.
Who actually, who actually runs, who actually wins a primary. Like, we might see more like people who were in like Bernie's position of like, okay, they're in the primary and they're left of center and they're in the primary, but everybody knows they're not going to get the nomination. They're just there to maybe get the leftists in line later. I think the Democrats are going to keep going right. I don't think they're going to learn their fucking lessons from this. I think they're going to double down on being more conservative next time.
Eventually something will happen and cause, a realignment. I mean, it's long overdue for the political parties to realign and swap places. Like, the Republicans used to be the Progressive Party and Democrats were the conservatives.
Yeah.
And, we're long overdue for a shift in party structure. I hear people talking about realignment all the time. They're two right-wing parties is not sustainable.
No.
You see it now. Democrats is the Republican light party, and they continue to lose and lose and lose and lose and lose.
Right.
Eventually, somebody is going to have to offer an alternative to conservatism. From the Democratic Party, I hope something new starts. I think the Democratic Party is too tainted and gross. I don't think there's any reforming it. I think there needs to be a new party. And, in an ideal world, we would get rid of the Electoral College and would have ranked choice voting and would escape the two-party system that we live under, because it's inherently, demonstrably undemocratic.
Right.
First past the post is one of the most undemocratic, quote-unquote, democratic systems there is, because no majority wins.
A lot of that is going to depend on, the younger generations being active, to help push the Overton window to the left, to, run and support, progressive and further left candidates. The millennials to keep, you're good. You're doing what you should be doing. Keep on keeping on. I think that our generation might be hopeless. But we need younger people to hopefully shift away. Now, overwhelmingly, Gen Z isn't overwhelmingly conservative by any stretch of the imagination, but they are far more conservative than people their ages have been in the past.
Right.
More conservative than the millennials were at that age, and more conservative than the millennials are now, and they're more conservative than we were at that age.
Yeah.
Which is weird because our generation has shifted so far to the fucking right that it's just it's really upsetting. I mean, the same thing happened to the boomers too. I mean, the boomers used to be the the fucking hippies in the 60s. So,
but I think that a lot of the hippies and ideologists back then, a lot of them were also rugged individualists. And that leads to conservatism, because once you're out of your 20s and you're not a part of a youth movement community anymore, and you have your family, then you are a rugged individualist for your family, not for your community. And you stop caring about other people in your community and look out for yourself. And that explains the rightward shift of boomers.
Right.
And a lot of it was just posturing and partying.
That's true. Well, it's through and through that Kevin Spacey line from Swimming with Sharks. If you haven't turned rebel by 20, you've got no heart. If you haven't turned establishment by 30, you've got no brains. But that's only true if you only give a fuck about yourself and no one else.
Right.
Like, the only reason you're turning establishment is because you're trying to take advantage of something that will benefit you exclusively, and probably to the detriment of other people. And that, I think that does kind of speak to the boomer mentality. And when I'm using these broad strokes of generations, and I just want to say that generations are bullshit. They're all made up. I mean, they're not real.
Listen to the citations needed episode about generations. I think it's like episode 6 or something. I'll look it up.
Right.
We can put it in show notes maybe.
Yeah. But, it's just broad age groups, because our generation started in 1964 and ended in 1982. Tell me, what does somebody born in 1981 have in common with somebody born in 1965? Fucking nothing. Nothing.
It's a marketing demographic.
Yeah. Right.
That's what it is. It's commercialism. It's a marketing demographic. It's who has disposable income at a given time.
Right. And we've often talked about how we align more with millennials, even though we're Gen Xers. Yeah. But I mean, we're the end of Gen X. We're 70s, late 70s babies. So, we probably have more in common with the oldest section of the millennials than
for sure
most of our other generational cohort who are older than us. But it's all just made up anyway. It's just bullshit. Yeah. So when you hear people talk about how, like, what's wrong with this generation, there's just something like wrong with, there's something wrong with the kids today, as if there's something biologically that fucking happened to them to make them different than our generation. I mean, people grow up under the circumstances they grow up under. People are products of their environment. There's nothing biologically different than any of these fucking generations. We're all just the same people.
Oh, millennials didn't spend, quote unquote millennials, didn't spend their money the way boomers and capitalists thought they should be spending their money. Right. And that's why, for about a decade, people gave millennials so much shit, because their disposable income was not going towards things that capitalists wanted, like diamonds and gold and apparently mayonnaise. It was going to things like coffee and avocado toast.
Right.
And for some reason that really irked boomers.
Boy, did it ever, man. And now millennial has also become synonymous with young people. And I have to remind my parents and people of that generation and the boomers sometimes, like, millennial isn't just the same term as young people, right? Millennials are now not the youngest voting generation.
Yeah.
They're not the demographic that advertisers are after anymore. It's Gen Z now.
Right.
Those are the new ones. Which is why I was so surprised to find that a lot of them have gone more conservative, because I just think, like, well, what do you have that would make you identify with conservatives? And it is just that there's just so many more content creating grifters out there. That's got to be it. And so many of them just, buy into this whole Elon Musk is Tony Stark crap.
Elon Musk is Timu Thomas Edison.
Even the OG Thomas Edison was not great, so.
Right, no, that's a dig. Thomas Edison sucked. He stole other people's ideas.
And if you're the discount version of that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Thomas Edison was a bad man.
Yeah.
And did horrible things and exploited other people's ideas and took credit for them.
Right.
Weirdly, just like Elon Musk does.
Right.
Weird. So weird how that happens.
All these guys are grifters. All these crypto bros are grifters. Gary Vee is a fucking grifter.
Elon Musk did not found Tesla. He bought it from the founders and then sued them so that he could say he was the founder of Tesla.
He bought PayPal too. He did not even found that.
Right.
So the first company, I think the first company he founded was SpaceX when he was already a billionaire. He obviously didn't found Twitter. So he just buys stuff, really. SpaceX is the only thing that he's founded, and that's mostly kept afloat by government subsidies. So your tax dollars at work.
All of his businesses. Well, not Twitter, but Tesla is funded by the government and by carbon offsets. So he gets a shit ton of money for carbon offsets, and then he sells them to people who produce a lot of carbon.
Right.
Because, Tesla our electric vehicles, and I guess they don't take into account the fossil fuels that it takes to plug them in and charge them. So he gets tax credits for carbon offsets, and then he sells them to other companies who do create a lot of carbon. Also, he got a huge government handout for lying to the U.S. government, saying that he would make Tesla batteries easily replaceable, and then never got a bunch of subsidies for doing that, and then never achieved that goal. And all the government contracts they have for SpaceX. They have privatized NASA to use Elon Musk's companies, and that's how he's getting his billions of dollars.
Right.
He's not a self-made man. His wealth comes from emerald mines in South Africa that are conflict minerals off the blood of indigenous people there, and he has used that to exploit all the way to the world's richest man. Also, Tony Stark sucks, and if we just taxed him and Batman, it would do more good than their vigilantism.
Yeah, you can tell that the world is a messed up place when you start kind of identifying more some of the villains in Marvel Comics, and you're like, they may not have had such a bad point.
Warmonger was right.
Yeah.
In the Black Panther movie.
Right.
Warmonger was correct.
I also like that not a great show, but I watched the whole thing anyway. But Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the woman who was the bad guy. The reason she was the bad guy is because she was trying to house the homeless people who came back after the snap, and she was trying to find them countries to live in, and also believed in destroying all borders, and thought that nation states were a bad idea. So she was doing it all for the people who got left behind by all these nation states, and she was the bad guy for that.
Yeah, the free movement of all people sure is an evil idea.
Yep, what a baddie.
That's terrible.
So of course Captain America had to come and set her straight. But he sure did give a naughty talking to the guys at the end, who he had just saved from her. It was like, hey, you guys need to try harder, though. Oh, boy. Okay, good job, Cap. Sorry, everybody. This has been a really kind of like meandering episode because we were both sick.
Politics and punk rock.
They go hand in hand.
It do
And
like that.
Just remember, you have way more in common with your fellow working class and just random regular people like us than you do with any billionaire or even multimillionaire.
No, you're closer to being on the street next to that homeless guy than you are to being a billionaire.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even if you make a low six-figure salary, because the cost of living has gone up so much that you will still live paycheck to fucking paycheck if you have children. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us and listening to our political ramblings for an hour to an hour and a half.
This is the last episode of this quote unquote season. So that's season 1 wrap. I'm not sure what that means. We've gone through really mean anything. We've gone through pretty much all of our punk houses. There's plenty of punk rock antics and stories that we have to tell. But there will probably be a little bit of a shift in tone and content just because we're, doing other things now that topic has kind of come to an end.
Right.
So,
and we are going to continue to do our punk movie reviews, and I'm sorry we haven't done one since Halloween. We are still going to do SLC Punk, and I would like to kind of increase our frequency of those as well. A lot of it had to do with it. Like, we both have been sick for a very long time. Also just job movements for for you and potentially for me.
Yeah.
You are laid off, and I could potentially be laid off in the next few months. So,
right. You know, another thing with punk movie reviews is some of the movies we have in line. Hopefully, we'll get some guests on to talk about, either give their takes or potentially some of the people involved with some of the movies. I'm not going to spill any beans right now, but we do have some guests planned for some of the movies that we are going to cover. So be sure and check those out, because you never know who you might hear from.
Right. And we will, even on this podcast, even though we may shift in our content a little bit, we are still going to have guests on, from our punk rock days. So you can still look forward to those episodes. If you prefer episodes where we're just talking about punk rock antics, those will still be coming out. And we will probably have, a lot of episodes where we talk about political stuff too. But I guess we always have. I don't know if that really is a shift, but I guess there's less, like you said, going to be less stuff about talking about the houses we lived in, because we've kind of come to the end of that road.
Yeah.
Specifically. But I would like to have on people from other punk scenes too to talk about.
Oh, for sure. Scenes. Yeah. We have friends from all over the Midwest that couldn't come on and tell stories about their scenes. I also would like to get back into talking about some of the music and even non-punk music that is important to us and things like that. So
I would like to do an entire episode where we talk about music that has influenced us that is not punk music specifically. Like we're not allowed to talk about any punk bands in that episode or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is Devo a punk band?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I concur, but some people think that they are.
Right.
It's fuzzy.
And I'd like to make playlists and stuff too. Mine will be largely hip hop, so I don't really have to worry about wondering if it's punk. So, So I think I'm mostly in the safe zone there. But I might have a few bordering on punk bands, or bands that were influenced by punk, but who I don't consider to specifically be punk bands. So
yeah, Subhumans are coming to Oklahoma City, and I think
again
March or May. I might try and go with our friend Alex. He told me about it.
I'd like to go. Maybe I'll fly down for that. I could just fly directly into Oklahoma City and meet you guys there.
If I get a job and have some money, I'm going to try to go to that.
Yeah.
I'll find out the date and let you know.
Yeah. Keep me posted.
If you're interested. I thought you might be interested. So
very interested. That's where it's probably at the same venue I saw them at last time in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to take some cough syrup and go to bed.
Okay. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Please remember to visit our website, www.prairiepunkpress.com. All of our stuff's on there. Visit all of our socials. Hit all the like buttons, all the subscribe buttons, and interact in any way that makes sense on the platform in which you listen to us. And
fuck Elon Musk.
Yep, fuck Elon Musk. Delete your Twitter if you haven't already. We did. It's great. You should delete it. But thanks for listening. And see you next time. Bye.
Bye.